All right, everybody, welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel, and going to be kind of a mixture of all kinds of stuff in this episode, which maybe the title has already alluded to, but big news about the KSRparts.com website. You guys have been rocking it, and thank you to everyone that has bought, a bunch of our used stuff or tagged in to buy, Holley stuff or Alicia Electronics or any of the stuff that we've already listed on the KSRraceparts.com website. I think I might have said that wrong earlier, but got an update on this a little bit later in the video, and I've been doing a lot of thinking. But I'll explain that more once we get going. Gonna catch up on a few other things we got going on here, show you all the trick new TRZ Motorsports rear end and suspension components in Spencer's car. Got an update on the lawn dart, which not a big update, but I'll explain that more after the intro. All right, so while you're here, please subscribe to the channel. I know I haven't asked that in a while, and after my break, numbers kind of went down a little bit, and things have kind of started to go back up, which maybe you guys really want to see me build my car. I want to see me build my car, but got something else that just found out yesterday. Well, it'd be 2 days ago from when this video is posting, that it's going to take me away from the shop, and not in a good way, for about a week to 2 weeks. You guys kind of get to know us, and into our lives a little bit, and I've got something I'll share about that in just a little bit. But please subscribe if you haven't. Click the notification bell. I've got a few videos in reserve that I can edit that I think I'll be able to maybe post while I'm on my break. Required break. Anyways, so the lawn dart, and if you guys are big fans of the lawn dart, you might notice there's some different things going on here. I've already filmed stuff for that, and like I said, that's one of the videos I'm going to be editing while I'm out, and hopefully we'll be able to, I won't give it away too much in this video, but today we are putting an alternator, a different alternator on the car, because the factory one finally blew up. They've turned this thing 86 or 8700 RPM a couple of times, and factory alternator with a very small pulley said, see ya, I don't want to do this anymore. So we got him a PowerMaster alternator and a much larger pulley here, but problem is, we had previously been running, like it was the perfect length to have a stretch belt on here. Well, now that we have put this larger pulley on here, we can't get a stretch belt. So rather than re-engineer the whole entire mess, we're making a bolt-on tab that's going to be, it'll bolt on the front side, and then on the back it will be welded, and it's going to have a slot in it so that we can, it's tight right now, but this will be able to pull out to put tension on the belt. Hoping that works. It's sometimes race cars are a little bit of an experiment, but we think that'll work. I was going to show you the piece I've been working on so far today. All right, so here's our little bracket, and it's basically just took a piece of 1-inch block 70-75. That's where the pivot hole is going to be, and then we've got the slider here for where the alternator will be able to slide out. So on the back side, we'll make another tab, and it will weld down so that they're in the same plane with each other, and the back tab will be able to swivel a little bit too, because if you notice, it's just a straight line. But with it only having the one attachment point here, this should be able to swivel to stay in line with the alternator as it swings out. And I think we'll be able to keep this all tight. And yeah, it's probably a little overkill because it's 1 inch thick, and the tab on the back will be 1/4 inch. But I didn't want to have a failure because this thing's real fast. So an update on the Nova, which is kind of been plunking away on it. The other header is actually on the bench, but you can see we've got a stainless header built for the driver's side. Hot side is into the turbo. The pipe down there on the floor is the wastegate dump pipe that's going to go somewhere down in here, and the wastegate will be somewhere about right down in this area. But it's got a nice precision turbo hanging on her now, and you can see the mount that I was talking about. So this bolts on and supports the turbo. It's got a diagonal brace that runs down there with just a nice heavy duty band clamp. And it's like, you know, real sturdy. See, I'm shaking the whole car with just the turbo mount. And that'll get even more tied together as the exhaust comes in, and the exhaust is tied to the engine as well. So, ooh, that reminds me, we gotta do something. We gotta do our slip fit down in there somewhere. Anywho, on to Spencer's car. So we're gonna show you a piece there in just a minute, but we've got Spencer's front wheels in, and I'm gonna start building the front suspension when we get back in. Got them mounted up with some of the new Mickey Thompson ET Street fronts. It's a 17-inch front, and these are really new, and very curious to see how well they work. They're way lighter than a true radial type street tire, but yeah, pretty excited to get those on there and get this thing down on the ground. And back here, you can see it's gotten serious. And right now, all of this stuff is just mocked up. This isn't where we're going to end up plotting things at all, but we've tested a couple of different locations for the Wishbone, which I'll show you in a minute. But we've got the anti-roll bar tacked in. The anti-roll bar is completely welded, and the end links tacked. All this stuff is about to come out, and we are going to send it off for powder coating. Rear end, control arms, anti-roll bar end links, anti-roll bar itself, the Wishbone, which we're going to show you in a second. And the Wishbone bolts on here, bolts on there, and bolts on to there, and prevents the rear end from being able to swivel. Just basically think of it as making a triangulation point to connect everything, and it's got a slider in the tube so that as the distances change from front to back on the length requirements of the Wishbone, it can just slide in the slider and not bind anything up. So that's kind of where we're going with all that. Somebody's got a really loud motorcycle in the parking lot. Yay, they turned it off. So yeah, a lot of different mock-ups and stuff. I originally thought this whole assembly was going to go down under here. In fact, you can see we tried to tack it there, and it's just too big. Too big for fitting it under the rear end housing, and got our shocks onto there. But we've got a little bit of room left as far as how far that can swivel, because you never want this angle to go straight, you know, as the rear end is separating. Even if you're just changing the tires, if this goes straight and then kicks backwards, well, it's just going to bend these all up and probably, I don't know, probably going to bend these up and, you know, break all that kind of stuff in there. We don't want to do that. So we've planning ahead for that not happening. But yeah, so here's Drew's Wishbone.
My Wishbone. All right, pull on it, make a wish.
You got to break it in half, though, right? We got to.
I don't know if we're gonna break this one in half. I don't think so. I mean, you can try.
She's quite sturdy.
Yeah.
So we got this worked out, and Drew and I worked on this together and kind of tied together at the front and the back of the slider. So in here is the slider that I was talking about. Oh, it even made a noise.
That's pretty good.
So check this out, just to. Oh. Okay, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty good fit, man.
That's pretty cool.
I'm taking some claim, but I'll give TRZ some credit.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's a funny noise. So this is welded, and if you saw, we have a grease fitting on here. So as this goes down all the way flush, there's a tiny cavity back there in the bottom. And the idea is that we'll pump that full of grease, so as it's working, any grease that's compacted in here will just get forced down, and we'll keep pumping grease in it until we see something come out of the top of it there. But tying this together with an X, I mean, it's like, well, how many triangles we got? We got 1, 2, oh, this is one of those games where you count how many triangles you got. Oh, so you got 1, big one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lots of triangles. You guys ever played that game before where you see the picture and you count how many triangles they are? That's what I was doing there. But anywho, that's ready to go to powder coat, eh?
I think so.
Now you just got to weld all the other stuff.
Oh, yeah, just everything else.
Everything else in the back of the car.
That sounds good.
True, true. So yeah, well, lots to do there, and then we still have to do the front suspension. Front suspension is going to be kind of all custom-y stuff, but we've had a lot going on here lately, and I guess I'll talk about my Cutlass real quick and kind of what I'm thinking for the Cutlass, and then we'll talk about why I'm going on a little bit of a break. All right, so let's look at the Cutlass for a couple of minutes on the bottom side, and I got a light on, so I might look a little funny here, but the light will help look under the car. So I've had this car since 1995. Maybe it was 96, but I was 14 or 15 years old when my dad and I got it. Got it from a friend of his at work for $200, and it was my first car, obviously, and it was taken apart in 2006-ish, I think is when I took it apart, raced it, you know, drove it on the street, and I did some bracket racing with it, and won a track championship in 2003, along with some other stuff, and now it's had a lot of work done to it since it saw the track. Like silly things like this is a piece of 1-inch square tubing that I bent and went up and around and put entirely too much time into it, and the frame where it's notched is both sides thick, and basically a lot of the work that I did in 2007 and 8 and even into 2009 I'm not very happy with. We have progressed, well, not only I myself have progressed skill-wise, but we have progressed.
Just waiting for you to tell me where to
cut. So, we've progressed as a shop. I've progressed as a fabricator, and I want to redo a lot of this. And a lot of this cage work was done down at TRZ. We collaborated on a lot of it, but most of it was, hey, I want this bar here, I want this to tuck way up out of the way here. And some of the ways that I went about doing that, I'm just not super happy with. Is it unsafe? I don't think so. But do I want to finish the car and everybody see it and look back on some of my work from literally 15 years ago and be kind of like, oh, that's the kind of work they do? Ugh. So with that being said, I've got a couple of options. So I have, and you can see here's a funny strap right here. I have buckets here for this that are multi-hole adjustable, but that means all this needs to be cut up. I have a multi-hole cross member up here to replace this that has multiple holes for the upper control arms, so that will all disappear. This box thing here I'm not a fan of. This, like I said, this frame rail is actually, like when I boxed this frame, you can just see it's just not good. Not good. Steel inner tubs, but this is the outer part of the frame that I cut, and then you can see how thick the frame used to be. Pinched it back together, and it's just, I'm just not thrilled with it. So I can either take all of the time to cut apart and redo things, and like you see this diagonal here, like it's tied to this bar, that everything's kind of like tied together. It's like done well in a lot of areas. That was actually a TRZ mod there, so I can't even take credit for that one. But do I go backwards with this chassis, or do I remove the body by, I would have to cut that bar there, and then the floor was already going to get cut out because it's just terrible and all kinds of rusty, like the plant. I mean, oh, I don't even want to show you that. Just, oh gosh, What happened? What is that? So I could take the body off of this and start with a new to me G-body chassis, and I think actually have less time in it. And then somebody, one of you, could buy this chassis, drop your body on it, and have a 25.3 Malibu, Monte Carlo, whatever, and you know, make this work for your project. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, already kind of started looking for some rolling chassis. Literally, I just need a frame. But if I have to buy a car, you know, to get the frame, I think any two-door G-body would be fine, because basically it's going to get cut here, and then it's going to get cut. This will be the end of the factory frame rail right here. So, and this is going to get notched. So I think I'm better off to cut it up and then have that as a rolling chassis. I say rolling because it's got these wheels on the front, but basically sell the chassis with the cage and then build a new chassis that's 2023 KSR spec and build it all together and have a car that's totally KSR. So let me know what you guys think about all that. Maybe you got a lead on a two-door G-body chassis. It could be a Malibu, Monte Carlo, Grand National. Nobody's gonna find a Grand National for cheap, but a Buick Regal, Cutlass, Grand Prix, any two-door, and even the four-doors might be the same, but I know the two-door G-body chassis are all the same. I think they're all the same. And what is not the same, I will, you know, make work anyway. So like this entire cradle will get cut out here, and there's going to be a bar that would come up and catch here, and then have tabs off of it for this front, because that's the front lower control arm mounting hole there, and it just opens up a ton of room. Because on my Oldsmobile, the exhaust ports are down a lot lower, so we're going to have to be doing headers down and forward to make all that work. So if you guys want to see something that was a huge inspiration to me, go check out the Grand National that 10 Soldiers Race Cars just finished. Saw that thing in person at PRI, and shoo, buddy, that thing is nice. So kind of leaning that direction to start over a little bit, because I think it'll actually save me time and maybe even a little bit of money, because this chassis is worth something. But if I chop it out and redo it, it's not worth anything. So I guess the final thing we got to talk about is, why am I going on a break? Well, I've had a medical issue that I have put off for a long time, and I went and had it checked up on by a doctor, and he worried me a little bit and wanted to have surgery tomorrow. And I went to the doctor yesterday. So by the time this video is coming out, I'll probably be wheeling into surgery. Appreciate anybody that, you know, wants to send some thoughts my way. Would appreciate that. But I'm not a guy who's a big fan of going under anesthesia, but that's what's got to happen. I guess the short story is, I've got a pretty bad hernia that I've dealt with for a lot of years. Kind of just dealt with it so that I wouldn't have to go have the surgery, but it's to the point of it being kind of dangerous, I guess my doctor said. So yeah, quick, not an emergency surgery, I'll say, but he was like, let's get it done right now. I will rearrange the schedule for Thursday to get you in Thursday. And that's it. So I'm not gonna be able to be on my feet for a few days, according to him. And I can't lift for, he said I should try not to lift anything for 2 to 3 weeks, like lift anything heavy at all. So I've got to figure out how that's going to work with my kids, which, not that I have to pick up my kids an awful lot, but if one of them falls down, you know, I got to be there to help them out and everything. So I guess that's going to wrap up this video. And, you know, if you want to, like, give us a like and a subscribe and a comment, let us know what you think about some of this stuff. And we will keep trucking forward. the next 2 or 3 videos, it's going to be me editing, hopefully sitting in my bed recovering. And like I said, I've got a couple on the lawn dart. I've got an update for Soccer Mom. I've got my lay mullets video. I do have that video that I can edit up and post up. And I know like those videos definitely don't generate the views that more current stuff does, but at least I can get it up there and it'll give me something to do while I'm laid up in bed for a little while. So that's gonna do it. Hopefully we'll see you guys in a couple of days with an update, and yeah, we'll go from there. So thanks again for watching and subscribing. We'll see everybody next time.